Welcome. So hi everyone. I hope you can hear me well. So welcome to the symposium on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals for the benefit of society, organized by the International Younger Chemists Network. Thank you very much for joining us in this global effort towards 2030. And in particular, I would like, of course, to thank all the speakers for their great contributions, for the on-demand talk that they have uploaded into the virtual platform, and of course for engaging us today in this live session. I am João Borges. I am the chair of the International Younger Chemists Network, and I will be introducing briefly shortly the network. But before that, and on behalf of the International Younger Chemists Network, I would like to dedicate this symposium to the memory of Dr. Mario Milano, who suddenly passed away last Friday and last week. So he would have been one of the speakers contributing and joining us in this symposium. And of course, I would like to acknowledge all Dr. Marco's contributions for the scientific community, in particular to chemistry and innovation, and all his efforts in improving and his contributions in tackling the sustainable development goals. Oops. Sorry. Dr. Marius was a representative from Italy at the International Science Council and was very active and highly engaged in the IUPAC, namely on subcommittees of polymer terminology and structure and properties of commercial polymers. And is really a world-leading scientist in the field of polymer chemistry. And his commitment to science for serving the society was always something that was driving his career. So I'm sure that he will be deeply missed by all of us. And of course, would like to extend our sincere condolence to his family and friends. And I also would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Maria Laura Di Lorenzo from Institute of Polymers, Composites and Biomaterials from Italian National Research Council for kindly sharing this slide with us. You can also watch a talk dedicated to Dr. Mario Milano, which took place last Monday and is available at the conference virtual platform, both as the video as well as the PowerPoint slides. So now let me introduce really the symposium and the purpose that that brought us here. As I mentioned, so I am João Borges. I am based in Porto, in Portugal, and I am a researcher at the University of Aveiro, and I have been recently appointed as the chair of the International Younger Chemistry Network. So who we are? So the International Younger Chemists Network is an associated organization of IUPAC since 2017. We collaborate with IUPAC in several projects related to our goals. We promote joint goals, and IUPAC is, of course, providing a lot of technical and logistic support to us in driving our development. And of course, several of our members at IYCN are very active as well at IUPAC. Here at the bottom, you can see a picture of the delegates that attended the first General Assembly in Paris in 2019, in the occasion of the World Chemistry Congress of IUPAC. This year we were supposed to meet, of course, at Montreal, but we had to take it virtually. But of course, we are happy to do so and to count with a lot of delegates coming from countries from all around the world. So just to mention that in 2019, in this first General Assembly, we defined the vision and mission of the IYCN. So the vision is to connect and empower younger chemists globally, and the mission to support and advocate for younger chemists working across the chemical science towards a globally sustainable future. For those of you that are within the audience and would like to know how to join the network, so you have here the link. So there are eligibility criteria, but basically, so if you are under 35 years old, you can become a member, or if you are currently pursuing your chemistry-related degree, bachelor, master, PhD, you are eligible. And also, even if you have finished your chemistry-related degree or training, for instance, a postdoc, during the past 5 years, you are eligible as well to become a member of IYCN. So please go into this link and join us, because it's completely free, and engage with us. Would be very happy to have you on board. So now let's start with the symposium itself, with the Sustainable Development Goals for the benefit of society, this very important topic. So how it came to us. So basically in September 2015, the United Nations revealed an ambitious plan, the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development, which integrates Sustainable Development Goals. So all these 70 goals that you are seeing in here, and the idea is that they guide development efforts across the world in all nations in addressing the most pressing issues facing the planet. So if we achieve these 17 goals by 2030, this will undoubtedly change the world for better, and we all have to play a role on this, we as citizens, of course. And today, so we'll be discussing the pivotal role in specific of chemistry in addressing all these 17 goals and in meeting the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Chemistry is very important in all areas of our life, in life, health, environment. So it's really involved in all our aspects, even if sometimes people don't think that chemistry is there, but chemistry is really behind everything that we have in life. And for that, we count on really a great lineup of speakers. And now I will stop sharing my screen. So with us, we have Luc Alleman. Luc Alleman is Secretary General of International Year of Basic Science for Sustainable Development. So in brief, IYBSSD 2022. We have José de Mesa, Program Management Officer at the Secretary of the Strategic Approach for International Chemical Management, SICAM. We have Hanindita Badra, so the immediate past co-chair of the Global Young Academy. We have also Emiel Dobelar, a PhD student in organic chemistry at Kaiserslautern Technical University, also chair of the Young Chemists Network of German Chemical Society, and member of the executive board of IYCN. We also have Fanny. Fanny is a member of the executive board of NESI. NESI stands for the Network of Early Career Sustainable Scientists and Engineering. And she's replacing Juliana Vidal that gave the talk, because she is also in another symposium on social media that completely overlap with this one. Thank you very much, Fanny, for joining us. We have Nimrat Obi, program manager for higher education at Beyond Benign. And we also have with us Kelly Marcus. Is a student, undergraduate student at Freie University in Berlin, and Samuel Marcus, that I think is also within the audience, and that will be also joining us throughout this discussion. So. Now I will also ask the attendees, so please post all your questions in the chat box that you identify on Zoom, and I will be addressing them to our speakers, provided that of course we just have 15 minutes for this call, but we'll try to address all of them in this meeting. So with this, so there are based on the talks of all the speakers. There are, of course, different topics that are of concern to the community, and we should all get involved in the Sustainable Development Goals. And of course, it is very important that all of us get engaged and take action in supporting the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. So. The United Nations is development and proposed to develop concerted efforts and actions to leave no one behind for the common good. However, we are also at the risk of failing on this, also due to the inequalities in opportunities, including persistent, for instance, gender inequality, mismatches between skills and education, and also and equal access to healthcare, among other topics. So I think that we all agree that education is really a central focus that should drive the developments around the sustainable development zones, and we could see that from your talks. And one of the topics that I would like also to bring to the discussion is the role of open access that was raised by Luc Alleman in his talk. So this is not, I mean, having access to open articles, mainly in the basic science, is not transversal to all countries. So we are not doing maybe what we can do in order to inform all people in the same way throughout the world. So look, I want to ask you, if I may, so what actions IYBSST aims to implement in order to make research and knowledge on the basic science mainly available to all of us? And who can we engage more? Who can we get support to engage us in this matter?
Sorry, thank you, Joao. I forgot to open my microphone. As you could see from my talk, the IYBSSD is still in the making. So it's still, sorry about the pun, but about open science, as about every topic, it's still very open. But what I can say, I would give two points. First, you perhaps know that UNESCO is currently working and is rather far on a resolution about open science. And without any doubt, the IYBSSD will rely on this statement. We'll try to go further, and perhaps the first step, and I would say it would be a good point, is that it is better known from scientists themselves, because one point for IYBSSD is to make known to scientists and to the general public what is already done. And well, this is an example of UNESCO is already working about open science, and very, very hardly working, and with contribution of all member states. So that's very important. Another example I can give, and as an Indita, as a background from the Global Young Academy, I know, and we already published on the IYBSSD website a few months ago some action from GYA about open science. And well, the open science question is very hard, very complicated, and I don't know if there is here in the room someone from ACS, American Chemical Society, which is a big editor, and I know well they could talk about this also. But we have to, first of all, to rely on what is already done, all the initiatives that are already taken by member organizations, and of course by UNESCO.
Thank you very much, Luke. So I don't know if any other panelists would like to address this topic.
May I add something to what
Sure.
Luke said? Yeah, please. So I would like to bring to the table another point that while we discuss about open science, many people don't consider, especially because a lot of these discussions are happening in the EU or in the global north, that people like us in the global south, we have a very different perspective of open science. At the GYA, we are very supportive of open science. And in fact, the GYA has been actively involved in the formulation of Plan S and its implementation. So we actually have a working group working on open science, and I'm a part of that. But then we also have to consider, what it means to researchers like us who are in the global south, because when you have a model where I have to pay APC, or I have to pay to read an article. Either way, it does not really help people in the global south, because when I need to pay article processing charges for a journal, it's definitely not supported by any of our grants, which are given by our funding agencies. And often, even if the grant supports, it comes out of contingency money or something, the entire contingency grant for 3 years goes into one APC, and you just cannot afford to pay that. Or sometimes I know researchers are paying out of their pockets, and APC is sometimes equivalent to my 1 month salary. So it's not really a feasible option for us to pay APC, and the government is not really going to go for planners, because we cannot simply afford to pay that amount, because when you convert, everything gets multiplied by 80, 85, 90, depending on what currency you are looking at, and then the rates become just unbearably high for us. So we need to have a sustainable open science policy where you can be inclusive at the same time. And the current discussion is not really as inclusive as we would like it to be. And we really need to come out of this idea of, that there are journals, and then there are libraries, and then there are readers, and then there are publishers, because everything is going virtual, everything is global. We have to rethink the publication model in a completely different manner, I guess, because yesterday I was in a panel where there was somebody from the Royal Society of Chemistry who had a very interesting idea. He was saying, why don't we have a Netflix model of publication, where you pay a very small subscription? The Netflix works, all over the world. It's globally accepted, so why not for publication? So something like that we really have to think about, because otherwise we cannot think of open science and inclusivity and diversity at the same time.
Very good. Thank you very much, Anindita, for this very nice insight. Also,
I agree with everything Luke and Anindita have been saying. I think it's wonderful what they're saying, and it's true. I think for now, as a temporary solution, networking is the best way that we can do it. So with all of the kind of online conferences that we're having, we're able to meet people, and this is where you can ask people about what they're doing. Scientists love to talk about their work. Right? So if we can connect more scientists together, then you can always ask for papers, right? Can I get a copy of that paper that you just published, and not charge for it, and not have to go through these big organizations, or give me a preprint or some other data or some other information? And I think that this is a temporary solution that we can, while we wait for the bigger solutions to come. Right now, let's work on the networking, and that way we can share between scientists, and we should continue to do that.
Thank you very much, Fanny, for this great insight. We have also a question from Professor Christopher Brett, please. And thank you for joining us.
Sorry, Chris, you're actually muted at the moment.
Sorry, thanks very much. I thought I was unmuted. So I'll start again. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. It's really nice to be here, and I can see some familiar faces. I'm in Portugal, of course, the same as João. We're about 100 kilometers apart, I think, at the moment. He said he was in Porto. I'm in Coimbra. On this question of open access, I've been discussing it not just in IUPAC, but outside as well. I think open access will come, whether you like it or not. And this is partly because the governments and other institutions give funding, and it's to show the public that the money is being used wisely. And so it's one cannot contest that concept, really. And so as was said, in Europe, really, this has moved forward relatively fast. One publisher has decided not to go straight to open access. It's having transformative journals. And so these go slowly towards open access, and justification for doing this is through Sustainable Development Goals. And you can see this on the webpage of the journals, actually. Perhaps some of you have seen that. But we have to remember something else that's going to happen with all this. Most articles now have supplementary material, and this is data. So what are we going to do about the data? Not at the moment, we're sending supplementary material as PDFs or maybe data files. What to do about that? And of course, that's where IUPAC comes in, data standards. And so we're looking at that, how we can make repositories of the data so that everybody can read what is meant to be open access really as open access. But of course, this causes a problem, as was pointed out, the funding available, and this requires time as well, of course, to produce these data in the correct way. It's not equal everywhere. And there's a myth to a certain extent that the so-called more developed countries have more funding available for open access. It's not necessarily true. So this is a problem that's not solved. It needs a lot of discussion. And clearly, if you're thinking towards the Sustainable Development Goals, this has to be solved because it's about equality for everybody, equitable treatment. And as was pointed out, what's behind it all is education. So actually, all the Sustainable Development Goals, if we look at them, depend on quality education. In fact, even gender equality depends on this. If people are educated, they can make their own decisions about what to do. I think the problem of open access actually reflects the problems that there are of asymmetries in education in different parts of the world at the moment. And of course, we want to do our bit, just as you do, of course, in IYCN, to reduce these asymmetries. So let's see what happens. I think it's very important that you younger people say what you think and loudly, because if people think and don't say, then those who make the decisions don't know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Also, this point of repository that I was about to bring to the attention, like also to bring Nim to the discussion, please.
Hi, thank you. This is a really great segue because I work at an organization that prioritizes open access education. And so that's, something that we also consider equally important. Beyond Benign is based in the States, and we're currently developing resources that are open access for green chemistry education. But, keeping in mind that sustainable science and sustainable chemistry is very directly tied into a lot of the kind of social development goals as well. It's not just priorities about, like considering human health and the environment. It also takes into consideration inequitable access to healthcare, inequitable access to educational resources, to sustainable resources, which in particular are, so often behind what we like to call paywalls, right? Like you have to go to university, you have to go to college to access these resources. So I guess I wanted to reiterate what Christopher was saying, that I think if the more that organizations can focus on making their educational resources open access and globally open access as well, that's also something that we're considering, because we are just, we are based in the States, but we want our resources to be accessible and to be open to people across the globe. And so thinking about things like, okay, what kind of language are we using? What are the technological considerations? Will people be able to use our resources if they don't have, great access to internet, or if they are not able to have enough time or funding at their own institutions to implement our resources? So these are all extremely important questions. I just wanted to, I guess, kind of reiterate what Christopher was saying, that I think education is really important, but, coming from, I guess, North America, how do we make sure that we are prioritizing the access of our resources across the world, not just for other North Americans?
Thank you very much for this also great insight, Nim. So Emil, please.
Yeah, I'll try to keep this short because I know we're limited in time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for bringing me up anyway. I think we have a very timely example why it's important to have open access. Now, I'm not sure about this because this is just a gut feeling. But looking at the pandemic, the rate which we responded to the pandemic and to the arising of this virus, how would that have turned out if we had all the research that was done behind a paywall? I'm pretty sure most of this research was done open access, and it's the only way to respond to a global problem. And this also is reflected by climate change and everything we want to achieve with sustainable development goals. So it's completely inevitable for us to make this happen, to make open access happen, and then coming back to the motto of this, for the benefit of society, of course.
Thank you, Emil. So I'm sure that hopefully we'll be getting to there soon and raise open access globally. Now, I think we also address in here and also in your on-demand talk, we could assess that really a huge focus also on education. So there is really the need for developing chemistry curriculum in schools and universities. So addressing green chemistry, the 12 principles of green chemistry, circular economy, sustainable chemistry, systems thinking, toxicology, to implement sustainable science. This, I guess, is really lacking, and we could see from all of your talks. And we should develop really chemistry curricula globally on these topics in the collaborative effort. Although it's not easy, but this is something that we should be looking into. And so, Emil, you just talked, but I want also to bring you on board. So you raised a nice survey together with IYCN and EYCN, and of course support of General Chemical Society. So a survey on sustainability in chemical education. We got a lot of response, more than 500 if I am not mistaken. So we could cover really their expectations toward the chemical sectors. And what we could see is that they don't feel that being prepared to tackle the sustainability and to assume the sustainable practice within a company, for instance, and leading that within a company. So what do you think that we should implement? And as a follow-up of that survey, what do you think that we should implement in terms of curricula globally? I mean, globally, in terms of implementing more sustainable practices, green chemistry, systems thinking, not only in universities, but also in our schools. If you start from the bottom, we'll go much upper in the scale. Can you please comment on this?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much for the question. I think we have a few nice examples also from the other talks where they're also addressing how we could implement these changes. I mean, it's scary to see in the response. We had over 500 responses. Now, to be fair, since this was conducted by the German Young Chemists Network, mainly 50% of that is Germany. So let's talk about the 250 responses we got internationally. But even there, we also see 90% of young chemists say they really want more sustainable chemistry in education. And the thing is that when you go into industry and ask industry, how do you think we should implement sustainable chemistry anywhere, and how should we support young people there, they always turn towards innovation. They always start at innovation. They say we need more innovation and we need to help young people to develop their ideas in innovation and promote these projects and more startups, and that's all fine, but you're skipping a step there. So I think also industry has to participate strongly in education and also demand from the government to implement these sustainability strategies in all of education. This is not only university level, but even in basic school level. People need to be educated in terms of living sustainably and conducting research sustainably and so on. And this is something that I think really needs to change, because everything starts with innovation right now. And how can you innovate or come up with new ideas if you never get educated how to come up with these ideas? So this is something I think we're still lacking. This is something where we need to go to, which is also evident by the other results of the survey, where you can see young people assessing their own education. And they were asked, do you think you're prepared to find the solutions for the future? And now half of the people said they do not think that their education prepared them to find sustainable solutions in industry, and they can contribute to a sustainability strategy. And that's a huge problem that we need to solve really, really quick if we want to get carbon neutral by 2030 or even 2050.
Thank you, Amiel. I would like also to call Samuel Mugo, so as a professor in analytical chemistry at McQueen University in Canada. It was really great to see your talk as well on how we can contribute towards revising the chemistry course, and some really nice thoughts, and train undergraduate and graduate students with professional skills and intersectoral knowledge that is really critical to suit the market demands and could contribute to economic reinvention. So what are the best practices in your opinion that we should implement, Samuel, please?
Yeah, maybe first I'd like to say it's very nice to be here, especially to see, panelists, from lots of different, countries. I think it's very, very good to do this, just the intersect, of people from very different places. Now, I think, and it's very similar, I think, here in Canada compared to many other countries. How do you get the students inspired, to continue doing chemistry, if at all they are struggling, to actually get jobs when they finish? I think that's something that we really need somewhat to address, to keep, the young people inspired, and knowing that, they can get meaningful work, after they complete, their education. And I think one challenge, that we often have, and I think, Emil, you mentioned about it, it's somewhat a misalignment, between what we teach, in our universities or the curriculum, and what is happening out there in the society. And so I think the role of training cannot just be done by the academy, but we need to have an intersect, between, I guess, the industry and the society, and the universities as well. And so we need to create, that kind of a hybrid, I guess, model where the universities are engaging very closely, with the society, and different types of industries. And you're trying to do that, in our university, to make sure that, the industries that are around, so some of the students get to engage with them. And the good thing with that, I think, is the students get to work on problems, that the industries find quite meaningful. And I think maybe that's what we really need to continue to scale up. Now, the thinking of industries, of course, often is a little bit different, obviously, compared to the university. So we need to think about, how do we blend and bring the synergy, from these two different types of mindsets, for the benefit, again, of inspiring our students and making sure that they end up having gainful and meaningful, employment, after they are trained. And from the internships that we are doing ourselves, in the courses that I teach, we see that inspiration happening, when the students, work with the industries and they get to see, some of, I guess, the theories that we teach in class, and they come alive in the industry. And I think that's how innovation really happens, and knowledge translation, I would say. But I think there's a lot more that needs to be done, to create a curricula that intersects the two.
Thank you, Samuel. So we have also Anindita, so please.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a comment to that, I think Sam brought up a very important point, that the curriculum, I guess there is a need for a paradigm shift in the way we teach, not just at the university, but in the schools. Because most often, at least in countries like ours, we are following a very colonial system of education where you teach certain things at level A and certain things at level B and level C. kids in class 5 don't even hear the word climate change, or they don't know what sustainable development goals are until they go, to college probably. So how do we expect this generation to get involved in, innovations and get involved in, Fridays for Future, or involved in any path-breaking ideas which will come out of them for achieving the SDGs by 2030, if we don't let them think out of the box, if we don't introduce these ideas to them when they're very early. And that does not need to have a major curriculum change, but even taking them through small projects to make them understand, what happens when there is too much heat, or documenting a lot of these disasters which are happening every year around, and asking them, why do you think this is happening? Even to just begin asking these questions. Do you think it's normal that there are forest fires which are burning down townships, and there are earthquakes, and there are floods all happening at the same time across the world? And have you heard about this when you were 2 years back, or do you think your parents heard about this when they were your age? Things like that. Tell them stories, get them involved in the thinking process. That is not something which we have in our education system. And then they come to the university, and we want them to innovate, and we want them to get involved in changing the world. That does not really happen that easily. So we really need a paradigm shift in the way we teach.
Thank you very much. So it's completely, I agree with your statement. It's really what I am also thinking. And also I would like to call Nim. So Nim, at Beyond Benign, you are developing the toxicology for a course for chemists with 12 modules. So I have a question does Beyond Benign provide support for those that want to implement that course in full or partially? I mean, irrespectively of the countries? Can you please, and let's try to make it a bit brief in the comment, because we just have 12, 13 minutes and this time flies. So thank you very much for your attention.
Yeah, thank you for your question. That's really great. Yeah, that is something that from the various kind of workshops and other kind of conference activities that we've held, we know that educators really do need this support. Currently, we have only kind of feedback and data from North American educators on how to implement this curriculum. And so the question of, how do we support educators around the world who want to use the resources is something that we're definitely kind of striving to work towards. Because I agree with, what everyone has said here. There's a big difference between kind of operating within this very kind of colonial North American framework versus like actually trying to make education accessible to a global population. So I would say, yes, currently we are looking at ways on how we can really best support educators to implement this curriculum. And, knowing that, I just wanted to kind of also highlight something that has been said by several people already, teaching students chemistry with real world context. And so part of the curriculum involves discussing case studies or real world examples of, things that have happened, like oil spills or any, kind of these toxicology related incidents that have happened, and keeping those case studies global so that people can see that this is relevant immediately to people everywhere throughout the world. And it's not just, a North American thing that happens where we have these, drugs that have been developed that maybe were not developed correctly, or learning how to design molecules in a way that doesn't adversely affect human health or the environment is a global issue. So trying to keep things relevant to that scale, I think, is also really important. That's something that we're working on.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I would like also to ask Rosa de Mesa, so regarding what SciChem is doing on the chemicals and waste management, which is of course vital to protect human lives, our planet, and of course the future of the present and the future generations. So given the multi-sectoral and the multi-stakeholder, if I may say, dimension of SciChem, so SciChem is acting also as a bridge between decision makers and youth, and we should really foster more the involvement of youth in engaging meaningfully, which would be vital also for promoting their engagement with different stakeholders. So SciChem is doing a great job on that. How do you think that we can engage more stakeholders and give more the floor to young scientists, youth people, to offer their perspectives that are different, but they also bring new ideas, new ways of communication, new critical thinking for challenging societal norms, raise awareness of inequalities, and so on. So how do you think that could be the obstacles that the youth are facing and that we may address shortly in order to address these issues?
Yes, thank you very much, Joao. I was kind of expecting this question. I have prepared just a couple of points regarding that on how we are going, what we are doing with youth. In my presentation, I already mentioned that we are actively engaged and can play, and we know that youth can play a meaningful role in advancing the implementation of SciCom mandate. The SciCom Secretariat closely collaborates with a growing group of engaged young people. For example, with the Chemicals and Waste Youth Platform of the major group of children and youth of the UNEP, of the United Nations Environment Programme. And SciCom is then this bridge between these decisions. So the young people, we really think they can contribute to the resilience of their communities, proposing innovative solutions, driving social progress, and inspiring political change in urban and well as in rural context. Young people constitute a tremendous and essential asset worth investing in opening the door to unparalleled multiple effects. Mm-hmm. At the same time, young people are also facing incredible challenges and even life-threatening risks, disproportionately carried by girls and young women in many parts of the world. Like difference in quality education, we have talked a lot about education in this talk, and the gender balance and quality education is very important, also on healthcare and decent work. So the objective of the UN Youth Strategy will be to facilitate increased impact and expanded global, regional, and country-level action to address the needs and to face the risks that young people are having right now. This is what I could say regarding youth and our support to further engagement of the youth.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jose. Emil, if I may, so if you could be quick, please. We have really short time.
Yeah, thank you for acknowledging the Chemicals and Waste Youth Platform. I'm not sure if you're aware, but I'm also working with Dixon to build that up, and it's really nice to see young people from all over the world coming together. It's not a network that is focused like on the global north, but it's really also diverse, which is nice. And we've already had a discussion in the communities of practice about about identifying barriers to youth engagement, which is also available on demand in a summary on the SciChem homepage, I guess.
Thank you very much, Emil. I would like also to call us to stage because it is nice to hear also her thoughts. So Kaylee is developing really a very nice green chemistry program for undergraduate students. So Kaylee, are you online? It is developed at the University of Berkeley. So can you please briefly also comment on what are your expectations and how this course that you have found will contribute towards bridging the gap between the chemist and the consumer?
Yeah, well, so I think it's also partly I'm just really lucky that I've been at universities that support student-led courses, because it gives us the opportunity to not only be a student, but be an educator and to have full control over how we teach. And so that's something I'm very grateful for. And that I sort of had to take up the opportunity because, well, when do you have this chance to try and teach chemistry to non-chemists specifically? And as has been the topic of many of the discussions and also in the chat, we tried to use exclusively consumer products to exemplify why chemistry is important, why it's everywhere, and how green chemistry can offer solutions to some of the maybe sometimes even hidden problems that we as consumers would never really consider. And I think one of the biggest things that my partner and I were focusing on was chemical literacy, because when you're coming from a non-chemistry background, it's in most cases going to be overwhelming to try to have to deal with chemical terms and concepts that are probably unfamiliar. And so trying to break that down into words that everyone can understand is a bit of a challenge, but when it's done well, it brings the message across. And so that was one of the main points.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Kaylee.
Thank you.
For our feedback as well on this. So we are really approaching to the end. This time flies. So I think we have much more to discuss. I would like also, or maybe to make just a point regarding COVID, because COVID really had a truly nefast effect on the progression of the achievement of SDGs. And we were really working at a slow pace even before 2019. So this really is really imposed a nefast effect. So let's see whether we can all work together and communicate, collaborate towards progressing faster in terms of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And also, for instance, we had to turn virtually in our conference, in our meetings. And this, for instance, for the environment was very, very good, because we reduced the carbon footprint. And this, of course, is something that we have to bear in mind as soon as we adapt more to these technologies that we are now familiar, and eventually think more on hybrid meetings that, of course, do not replace the network, but we should really think on this tackling the future and the SDGs. So since we just have a few more minutes, I would like just to come back to the slides and just to pop up this slide with somehow a message based on what we discussed, and much more we could have said regarding the slow progression in the achievement of the SDGs worldwide. The world really needs actions, not just words or raising of awareness. We as citizens, we need to get engaged. We need to embrace inclusion, sustainable practices, and collectively contribute to this global effort for benefit of all of us. So in the future, our future generations will suffer from the actions also that we don't take now. And we should think of this for the well-being of everyone, and also to protect the planet. And also I would like also to inform you on this Global Sustainable Development Report that was written by an independent group of scientists that was invited by the Secretary General of United Nations, Antonio Guterres. And it's really nice to see the reflection that we should make towards accelerating the pace and thinking also on the achievement of the SDGs by 2030. So just before closing, yes, so what we are doing also at IYCN regarding the SDGs, regarding, of course, this symposium that we are very glad to count on all of you. So thank you very much. It was really great. I wish you could have more time, honestly, to discuss more, and hopefully in the future we'll engage further on the topic. For sure, it is needed. But we are also developing a social media campaign targeting the SDGs. We want to hear from all of you that are within the audience, so that are working on the SDGs based on your research work or whatever. So whatever you want to comment on SDGs, please write to us. You have there our contact, IYCN@IUPAC.org. We would be very willing to hear from you and to collaborate further. And we have also, can also mention that we have other projects in the laboratory that we cannot really talk now, but for sure in the future targeting also sustainability. And this is really a focus of IYCN driving our future. So to get in touch with us, again, we have the email that I mentioned in the previous slide, but we are also very active in social media. So we have the LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter accounts. So please don't hesitate and reach out to us. We'll be very glad in reaching out to you. And also now regarding the intervention of IYCN in this conference that I hope you are also enjoying. So we'll have today a talk by Laurie. It's also within the audience. This is the IYCN immediate past chair. So she'll be at live discussion today. So in about 1 hour and a half, more or less. And we'll be discussing how we are promoting diversity and inclusive environment within the IYCN. And also, please also join on the last day. So our talk that will be given by Carolina Soterio is a member of the Public Outreach Committee headed by Emiel that we have with us. She will be speaking about the outreaching activities, what we are doing in order to engage the next generation of chemists worldwide and the general public. And this live discussion will be next Friday at 11:30 Eastern Time. So from my side, I just want to thank you all for joining in this discussion. It was great. Again, it was short in time, but hopefully, I guess, raised awareness for the importance and some of the topics that we really have to think of towards driving the future and tackling the sustainable development goals. So thank you very much, and have a nice weekend. Please enjoy the conference.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.